You can tell which rooms used to be loud. The air remembers noise, even after the voices are gone. Room 6 always hummed, like it missed being listened to. The hallway outside, it is quieter than the others. Too quiet. No footsteps echo right when you walk past. Something about the air turns the sound inward, like it does not want the noise to get out. The window in that room never fogs, even on cold mornings. It just stares back. I have passed that room every day for over 2 years, and still I hold my breath when I do. My name is Harold. I am 81 years old. I have lived in this nursing facility for 2 years and 7 months. Before that, I was a high school music teacher. I taught piano for almost 4 decades. Music was my life. It still is, though it comes in pieces now. Fragments of memory, unfinished melodies, a rhythm that no longer has a purpose. I am one of the quieter residents. I have learned that silence earns you privacy, and pretending not to hear keeps people from asking too many questions. But I hear more than they think, especially when it comes from room 6. No one stays in that room. They do not assign it to anyone anymore. I asked about it once, and a nurse said it had a wiring issue or maybe a plumbing leak. Different staff say different things. Some say it is waiting for inspection. Others say the light never stays on. But I see someone go in there every few days. A woman in pale blue scrubs. She enters with a cart, stays 5 minutes, and leaves. Always the same time, always alone. I watched her once. She walked in with new sheets, but when she came out, the ones on the bed had not been changed, just flattened, smoothed over, as if tucking in someone already there. That bed always has a dent, not on the side, not where people usually sit, right in the middle, deep and shaped, like someone just stood up, or lay down for the last time. I first noticed the ticking last winter, a steady soft click, tick, 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 4 beats per second, like a metronome. It happened at the same time every morning, right after the breakfast carts rolled out, then again at night, just after the evening meds, always for 28 seconds. I timed it. It stopped as suddenly as it started. I thought maybe it was a clock left behind, or a pacemaker gone rogue, but no one else heard it. I asked my neighbor, an old soldier with a hearing aid. He said it was probably just my memories, but it was not. I know music. I know timing. This was not in my head. One morning, I paused at the door. It was closed, but I heard it again. Tick, 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 tick. Perfect rhythm. I tried to place the pitch, but there was none. Just clean clinical percussion. It made my chest feel tight, like something was winding up inside me. That night, I dreamed of sheet music. One page, titled Requiem for the Unheard. The notes were blank. Only the title remained. The next day, I passed the room again. The door was open just a crack, enough to let light spill in from the hallway. Inside, I saw the shape of someone sitting on the edge of the bed, shoulders hunched, hands folded, still. I blinked. The figure vanished. The bed creaked once, like something invisible shifted its weight. I stood there a moment longer, then walked away. The ticking had stopped, but the silence was worse. From then on, it became a part of my day, not by choice. I would hear the rhythm at odd times, when I was drifting off to sleep, or just waking up. And sometimes, in those half-conscious moments, I would hum a melody I could not place, something sad, slow. I would catch myself swaying to it, but when I tried to play it in my head, it dissolved. Weeks passed. One morning, I stood at the doorway, The nurse had forgotten to close it. No one was inside, or so I thought. I stepped in. The air was cold, not like air conditioning cold, cold like waiting. The light above flickered once, and then held steady. The bed was perfectly made, but the dent was deeper than I had ever seen. I sat down. It held me like it remembered my shape. On the nightstand was a thin stack of paper, old, curled at the edges. Sheet music. The top one had no notes, only the title Requiem for the Unheard. I touched the corner. The page felt warm. I do not remember standing. I do not remember leaving. But I found myself in the courtyard. An hour later, my hands smelled like dust. That night, I dreamed again. This time the notes were there. The melody was full, complete. It played as if I had written it myself, and I cried in my sleep. I awoke humming it. The same tune, the same tempo. Tick, tick, tick. A march, a morning. I tried to write it down. My hands shook too much. I tried to tell the staff. They smiled, told me it was good to have hobbies, that music keeps the mind young. But this is not a hobby. This is a haunting. Every time I pass room 6 now, I hear the faint start of the melody. It waits for me. Sometimes, when I sit quietly, it plays without prompting. It is always in the same key, always in the same time signature, like someone is still practicing, like they never got to perform it. And I remember now, a student. His name was David, quiet boy, gifted, obsessed with writing his own music, said he was composing a final piece for someone he lost, a goodbye he could never say. He played it for me once, the opening bars, but he never finished it. He disappeared before graduation. I never found out why. Now I think he is here, or something he left behind us. They say room 6 is empty, but it never feels empty. Not to me. It listens. It responds. I do not walk past it anymore. I sit near it. I hum. I let the melody continue. One day, someone will finish that song. Maybe not me. Maybe not here. But someone will. Until then, room 6 waits, and I listen. When the sun hits the visitor's book just right, it glows like something sacred, like every name inside. It carries a memory still walking these halls. I used to love sitting in the front parlor, watching who came in, who left, the way people pause before writing, as if their name might not be welcome. Now I sit further back. The light hurts my eyes, and I have stopped expecting anyone to arrive. My name is Eileen. I am 73. I have lived in this home for a year and a half. Before that, I had a cottage with a yellow door and a kitchen full of ceramic mugs no one ever drank from. I was known for my biscuits, my garden, my laughter. People say that about me still. Even when I am silent, they remember the laugh, not the reason it faded. I do not laugh anymore. I write letters I never send. I watch the sign-in book from my corner seat, and I wait for the girl who should not be coming, but always does. She first appeared last spring, every Thursday, like clockwork. A new line in the visitor's log, same name, same handwriting. It's a soft loop on the E, a trailing tail on the E. Her name was Holly, no last name, just Holly. The ink was always blue, always freshly dried, but no one ever walked in. No one opened the door. The nurses said it was probably a mistake. One even joked that maybe a ghost wanted to check in on us, but it kept happening, week after week, without fail. Every Thursday morning, Holly, in blue ink, sometimes at the top of the page, sometimes in the middle, but always there. I watched closely, from my chair near the window. No one came in. I asked Linda, the receptionist, if she had seen anyone sign in. She shook her head, said only 3 people had entered all morning, and none of them were named Holly. I believed her. I had been watching too. I tried to forget it, told myself it was a prank. It's maybe one of the nurses with a strange sense of humor, but the name started to feel familiar. Not in the way a stranger's name might sound like someone you once met. Familiar like a whisper you have heard before, a name spoken in a dream you cannot remember after waking. It's one night, I could not sleep. The wind outside clawed at the windows. My hands were shaking, though I was not cold. I reached for my drawer, pulled out my old journal. I had not opened it in years. The first page was from 7 years ago. The handwriting was neater then, more confident. On the 3rd page, I found it. Her name, Holly, my daughter. She had not visited me in a long time. That was true, but it was not her fault. She had died. The memory came back in pieces. The call, the drive, the hospital, the hallway that smelled like metal and rain. Her coat still in my hands. I had forgotten her laugh, her voice. I had buried it somewhere deep and covered it with day after day of pretending I was fine. But the name never left me. It had been hiding in the ink, written by a hand that was not hers in a place where she had never been. I began checking the book more obsessively. I would sneak to the front desk before breakfast, pretend I was looking for a visitor. There it would be, Holly, blue ink, same signature. Once I touched the page, it smudged slightly, fresh. I showed it to Linda. She frowned and said no one had come in. I asked if we had cameras. She said they only pointed outside, not at the guest log. I asked her to keep the old books instead of throwing them away. She hesitated, then agreed. Over the next few weeks, I began reading the old ledgers, page after page of shaky names, grandchildren, cousins, neighbors, some cheerful, some rushed, but scattered among them every few months was the same name, Holly, same ink, same handwriting, going back years, even before I arrived. One entry stood out, Holly, and next to it a note, visiting Mom Ellie. I dropped the book. My knees gave out. A staff member helped me back to my room. I told her I was dizzy. She brought me ginger tea. I did not drink it. I did not write that note. I never told anyone to log her in. I never signed her in on her behalf. I never pretended she was alive. Or maybe I did. Maybe part of me had been doing that all along. The next Thursday, I waited. No one came, but the book opened itself. The corner lifted in the breeze from the heater. I walked to the desk, slowly, heart loud, in my ears. Her name was already there. I signed beneath it. My own name. My real name. Eileen. My hands were shaking as I did it. When I looked down, I saw the ink on my finger. Blue. Same shade. Same pen. I had written them both. I could not remember doing it, but it was my hand, my style, my loops. I had been writing her name for weeks, maybe months, maybe longer. Something inside me broke that night. I stayed in my room for 3 days. They brought food. I barely touched it. I kept the journal on my lap, the pages with her name, the memory of her face, coming back slowly, faded, like an old photograph. I had not forgotten her, not fully, but I had buried her memory so deep. I started pretending she was never real, that it would hurt less that way. Now, I sit in the parlor again. Every Thursday, the name still appears. Sometimes I still write it, though I do not always remember doing it. Sometimes I write messages next to it. Visiting Mom. Sorry I am late. Still love you. The staff have stopped asking. They think it is grief. Maybe it is. Or maybe something else remembers her. Even when I cannot.
something that does not want her name to be forgotten. So I keep writing it, until my hand forgets how, until the book forgets me too, until someone else sits here, wondering why a name keeps returning when no one ever walks through the door.
Curtains are meant to give privacy, but sometimes they just make you forget someone is still lying behind them. Room 9 is a 2-bed unit with a thin white sheet hung between, fluttering just enough to remind you that someone might be there, might be watching, might be waiting. It is the kind of room where silence does not settle, it clings. I have learned to sleep through moans and IV beeps, but the silence in room 9 has weight. It comes when no one is speaking, no one is breathing, and no one should be awake, and yet something is. The second bed is always there, always made, always empty, except it never feels that way. My name is Robert. I am 85 years old, and I came to this nursing home after my second stroke. I used to be a builder, bridges, mostly. Now, I need help putting on my socks. The doctors say I have improved. The nurses say I am a model patient. They nod and smile and wheel me to my appointments. I do what they ask. I eat the food, drink the shakes, swallow the pills, but I have stopped sleeping because when the lights go out in room 9, I hear breathing that is not mine. I feel pressure on the mattress when I turn to face the curtain, and sometimes, not always, just sometimes, I wake up to wet footprints leading from the other bed to mine. The first time it happened, I thought it was a dream. I had been dozing off when I felt something shift in the air, not touch exactly, but presence. My skin prickled. I opened my eyes and looked past the curtain, expecting to see a nurse. Nothing. The room was still, but I saw them, faint, smeared prints on the tile floor, like bare feet, damp and unhurried, pacing from one bed to the other and back again. I blinked, and they faded. I told no one. I had just come out of rehab. I did not want them thinking the stroke had scrambled more than my words. Over the next few weeks, the second bed remained untouched. No one was assigned to it. The chart on the wall beside it stayed blank, but I started noticing things. The pillow would be indented slightly in the morning. The call button cord would be wrapped differently each day. A faint crease on the sheet that looked like a knee had been pressing down all night. The nurses said I must be imagining it, that they clean and smooth the bed every morning during rounds, but I knew they were lying, not out of cruelty, but confusion. Because I watched them, they never touched it, and when I asked about the last patient who had shared the room, they would glance at one another, then change the subject. One night, I could not take it anymore. I reached over and yanked the curtain aside. The bed was empty, the sheets were clean, but the smell, damp wool, and something like old lake water lingered in the air. It filled my nose, my throat, my memory. I could not breathe for a moment. I closed the curtain, took deep breaths, convinced myself it was just another ghost of illness, a hallucination brought on by fatigue, stress, grief. But then came the whisper. It was not a word, more like an exhale that knew my name, a sigh that ended with the beginning of a thought. It came from behind me. I turned. Nothing there. I buzzed the nurse. She checked my vitals. I told her I could not sleep. She said she would bring melatonin. She never came back. The next morning, there were 2 trays outside the room. Only mine had been touched. I began having dreams. Always the same. I am lying in my bed, facing the curtain. I hear water dripping, then the sound of someone sitting, that soft squeak of weight on a mattress. I reach out, lift the curtain, and see myself lying in the second bed. My face is pale, my eyes are open, unblinking. I am staring at the ceiling. I try to call out,
but the sound drowns in a flood of water pouring in through the ceiling tiles. The dream ends with me choking, the curtain wrapping around my body, like it wants to pull me under. I woke up last Tuesday, with my pillow soaked, not sweat, water, cold, clear. My gown was damp. The nurses blamed a leaky ceiling, but the ceiling was dry. They changed my sheets, and offered to move me to another room. I refused. I needed to know. I needed to remember what I had tried so hard to forget. It came back slowly. Years ago, before my stroke, I visited a friend here, Arthur, former welder, tough as nails. He had the same room, room 9. We shared jokes, talked about our wives. One night, he asked me to stay late, said he felt strange, said the second bed gave him dreams. I laughed, told him he needed more pudding and less pain meds. That night, he died in his sleep. I was the last person to see him alive. The staff offered to let me sit with him before they took him away. I refused, said I could not handle seeing him like that. Truth was, I was scared, not of death, but of what he saw, of what waited behind that curtain. I left him alone in that room, alone in that bed. Now I know the bed. Now I know the bed never forgot. It waits. Every night, the pressure grows. I lie on my side, back turned to the curtain, and I feel it behind me. A slow breath, a presence leaning closer. It never touches, it just watches, like it is waiting for something. Last night, I turned over. There was a shape in the second bed. No features, just form, covered completely, but breathing. I sat up. I spoke to it, asked it what it wanted. No reply, just stillness. Then it slowly turned toward me, not with movement, but with gravity, as if attention alone could shift its body. And then it was morning. The bed was empty again, but my bed was wet. My call button was wrapped tightly around my wrist, and my name had been added to the chart on the wall, under patient 2.
The garden smells like damp earth and wilted hope. We were told it was for our healing, for our hands to remember what life feels like. Rows of planter beds stretching beneath gray sky, half of them full of weeds, the rest full of things we try to forget. They wheel us out there during group therapy, under the excuse of fresh air and vitamin D. Some of the others pull weeds. Some just sit and let the sun remind them of warmth. Me, I dig. I always dig. My name is Clara. I am 76 years old. I came here a year after my son died. They said I had not processed it right, that I needed grounding, that grief should not be left to fester. My sister signed the papers after I spent a week refusing to leave my room. They said I needed the kind of care not offered at home. I do not remember agreeing, but I remember arriving. I remember the gravel under the wheels of the chair and the smell of the garden beds even then. I hated it at first. The dirt got under my nails and the air felt fake, like a smile someone forces when they want you to stop talking. The garden was where they sent us to be distracted. They gave us gloves and plastic spades, told us to name our plants like children, said it would help. They told me to grow rosemary. I chose silence instead. I started digging beneath the designated plot, not just shallow, surface level. I went deeper, not because I was looking for something, but because I wanted to bury something. I do not even remember what it was. The first time, a tissue, a button, something from my pocket, something useless. But the next morning, a tiny toy soldier was lying in the dirt, not mine. I had no visitors. The staff said someone must have dropped it, but it was standing upright, arms lifted like it had marched there itself. I threw it away. The next day I found a child's shoe. It was small, red, with a worn Velcro strap, and no pair. I sat for a long time just staring at it. Then I picked it up, tucked it in my lap. It felt warm, as if someone had only just taken it off. That night, I dreamed of a sandbox, my son Thomas, was 3. He laughed, threw dirt in the air, and pointed at the toy soldier buried near his heel. He asked me to dig with him. I smiled and said I was tired, that he should go play alone. I woke up with the smell of wet sand on my hands. The next few weeks blurred. I stopped eating meals in the dining hall. I asked to take mine in the garden. They agreed. Fresh air, they said, good for the mind. But I knew why I was there. The dirt had started whispering, not in words, in memories. A flash of my son's handwriting, a laugh on the wind that matched no one in the building. I would bury things now, not objects, but moments. I would write down a memory, and fold it small, dig a hole, and hide it under the soil. Then I would wait. The returns got stranger. A cracked marble, a rubber dinosaur, a page from a picture book I had never seen before, torn and muddy, but my son's name scribbled in the corner, in green crayon. I stopped showing the staff. They would have taken the garden from me. Instead, I began keeping them in a shoebox beneath my bed. My collection, my offerings, the pieces of Thomas that were not supposed to exist anymore. Then came the note, folded neatly, no envelope, just paper tucked inside the roots of a half-dead basil plant. It said, "You promised to stay." No signature, no handwriting. I recognized. I read it 10 times, folded it up, buried it again. The next day it was back, in the exact same spot. I asked the nurse if Thomas had ever visited. She looked confused, said no one by that name had come. I nodded, thanked her, and went back outside, sat on the bench, waited. At dusk I saw it. The far gate creaked open. We were told it was locked, that it was rusted shut, too heavy to move. But I watched it swing, slow and soundless, just wide enough for a child to slip through. I stood, walked toward it. My legs were shaking, my body stiff from disuse, but I made it halfway across the garden before I heard it, giggling, not mean, not playful, just distant, a sound that did not belong here. I called his name. The wind answered, then the gate slammed shut. I was helped inside. They said I must have fallen asleep, that I imagined the sound, that it was just wind through the branches. But I know my son's laugh. I would know it in the middle of a storm. That night I woke up, and the shoebox was gone. Every item, every note, gone. I tore the room apart. Nothing. No one had been in or out. The staff said I had never mentioned a box, that I must have dreamed it. But they were lying, or maybe forgetting. I returned to the garden the next morning, sat in my chair, dug quietly, and found a mound of earth already dug. Fresh. Inside was the shoebox. Everything inside it damp, but untouched, except for one new item. A photo, me and Thomas, in the sandbox. A moment I do not remember. We are smiling, but the background is wrong. Behind us is the garden. This garden, the planter boxes, the fence, the trees. I dropped it, started sobbing. I begged the nurse to move me to a new room. She asked why. I told her the truth. She did not write anything down. No one moved me. Now I sit at the far edge of the garden. I do not dig anymore. I wait, because something else is digging now, and it is getting closer. The hallway hums with a sound I can never quite place. It is not the flickering lights or the distant voices behind closed doors. It is something beneath it all. A deep and steady thrum, like a breath, held just beneath the surface. The West Wing hallway is long, narrow, and always colder than it should be. There are no windows, no paintings, just blank beige walls, old linoleum floors, and the kind of ceiling lights that never turn off, even at night. I do not know why they keep them lit. Maybe to make it seem less empty. maybe to hide how endless it feels when you are the only one walking it. My name is Jonah. I am 89 years old. I walk this hallway every day. I came to this nursing facility after a fall in my home, though that was not the real reason. I think people get sent to places like this when they have no one left to remember them. I was not always alone. I had a wife. Her name was Lily. She had soft gray eyes and a voice like warm honey. We were married for 50 years, but the last 5 of them were not kind. Dementia came quietly. At first, she forgot where she left things. Then she forgot faces. Then she forgot her own name. She was moved here before me. I used to visit. Then I stopped. I told myself it was too hard. I told myself she would not know the difference. That was a lie. I have carried like a stone in my chest. The hallway runs the length of the West Wing. It was used more in the past, but now they only open the rooms when there is overflow. Most of them stay empty. I walk this hall every afternoon. The nurses say it is good exercise, that it keeps my joints loose and my balance steady. But I walk it because I feel like I have to, like something is unfinished here. I do not tell them that part. The first time I noticed it, I had just reached the far end of the hallway, the fire exit door, cold to the touch. I always rest there before turning back, but when I started walking again, something was wrong. I passed the same crack in the floor tiles 3 times in a row, a tiny chip in the linoleum, shaped like a crescent moon. I had seen it before, but not that many times. I stopped, turned around. The fire door was behind me. Then it was ahead again. The lights buzzed louder than usual. I took a deep breath and counted my steps back to the beginning. When I reached the other side, I looked behind me. The hallway was longer now. I do not know how, but it had stretched, like it had been waiting for me to notice. The next day, I walked it again, this time slower. There are 16 doors on that floor, 8 on each side. I count them now. I know their labels, I know their colors, but that day one of them was different. Door number 5 on the right had a new sign, not a nameplate like the others, but a faded white label that said, temporarily closed. The door was shut, but something about the handle felt warm when I brushed against it. I kept walking, but I checked the directory later. That room belonged to Lily. She had been assigned to it before her final transfer. I had not thought about that room in years. I had not wanted to. I remembered her lying on the ground, just outside that door. I remembered her calling my name. I remembered freezing, not helping, just standing there while she reached for me. I told myself I would get a nurse, but I walked away. By the time they arrived, she was gone. I told them I had just found her. I have told myself the same thing ever since. That night, I had a dream. I was walking the hallway again, but it never ended. The lights above me flickered. One by one, I walked past the same crack, the same scuff mark, the same flickering light, over and over, until I saw a figure ahead. It was me, or something that looked like me, wearing my sweater, limping the same way. I called out, but no sound came. My voice was hollow. My feet were heavy. The figure never turned, just kept walking. I woke up with blisters on my heels. I had not walked more than 20 minutes the day before. The next afternoon, I tried walking the hallway in reverse, starting from the fire exit instead of the front. It made no difference. I still passed the same chipped tile, the same burnt-out light. Only now, I began to notice photographs on the walls. There had never been photos before. They showed blurry faces,
elderly couples, nurses, black and white portraits, but none had names. Just plaques with quotes like "Time remembers the steps we take," and "Love does not forget." I stared at one for a long time. The woman in it looked like Lily, but younger, before the illness, before the forgetting, before me. The hallway began to feel heavier. After that, like walking through water, my legs would ache sooner, my chest would tighten. I stopped at door 5 again, and pressed my hand against the wood. It was cold this time, dead cold. I whispered her name. I do not know why. I think I was hoping she would answer. The door creaked, but only slightly. No one believed me. When I told them, they said that room had been sealed for months. Maintenance. No one had the key. But that night, when I closed my eyes, I dreamed of it again. I was inside the hallway, but it was darker. The lights above blinked in a rhythm, 2 on 1 off, like a heartbeat. The floor beneath me pulsed. I reached door 5, and it opened on its own. Inside was not a room, but a mirror. I saw myself, and Lily. She was standing beside me, holding my hand. She smiled, and then she vanished. I woke up crying. I never cry. Now I walk the hallway every day. Sometimes it is short. Sometimes it stretches so far. I feel like I have been walking for hours. I see myself at the other end. Sometimes he never turns around. He just keeps walking, but I keep following him because I think he remembers where she is. And I think if I keep walking, I will find her again. And maybe this time, I will not walk away. Maybe this time, the hallway will let me stay.